Right, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon session about Cyber Essentials. And the aim of this talk or this session this afternoon is just to introduce Cyber Essentials for folks that are looking to go through Cyber Essentials, or you've maybe heard about Cyber Essentials and haven't quite decided, well, whether this is for me. And what we will do is we'll go through what it is, what it's not, and then also we can do the question and answer session. We have a couple of assessors that can answer some of your questions. So if you want to type in your question in the chat, yeah, they will try and answer all the questions. If there's something specifically for me, they will alert me to the question and so on. Okay, great. Let's go. Okay, so nowadays, whenever we try and fill in a document, for example, like a tender document, or maybe we're trying to engage with services with other businesses, or maybe even looking to apply for cyber insurance. A lot of the organizations are now asking about how are you prepared for cyber insurance, or how what precautions have you taken in terms of being a little bit more cyber secure. And this is where Cyber Essentials comes in, because you have a validated metric of being able to show somebody, these are the steps we've taken, these are the options that we've done, and we can go for that. Right. Okay. So with us going through this afternoon, just a quick recap. ID Cyber. This is where we are based, and we are largely constructed out of two divisions within the organization. For example, we are a Cyber Essentials certification body, which means we can take you through all of the ins and outs of Cyber Essentials and issue you a certificate at the end of your assessment and an audit. The other division is we are a cybersecurity training company as well, so we can offer various different training, from security awareness to some basic cybersecurity, to even more advanced things like ethical hacking, incident response, digital forensics, and so on. So we cover quite a lot of areas in that. We are also an IASME certified training center, so which means if you're needing to do any of the IASME training, we can probably provide that for you as well. Okay, so let's dive in about Cyber Essentials. So it is a government scheme for organizations to have or demonstrate a base level of cybersecurity. And as I mentioned, some insurance companies may ask you about your cyber preparedness. I've noticed in a couple of questionnaires from insurance companies about even your own home insurance. What are you doing in terms of securing your devices internally? Now, those questions are reasonably basic, but we will have a look and see what those are. Generally, the certifications are aimed at sort of generic IT systems. So you have staff that have been issued with a particular device, and on that device is an operating system, and on that device, then with the operating system, are a set of documents that you work with every day. Those documents may be things like email. Some of those documents may be Word documents, some of them may be presentations, some of them, yeah, anything that you interact with as part of your business. So some of those services may be even cloud or so on, like Office 365 and so on. So, and the aim is, what have you done to secure those particular devices? The security centers largely about common and unsophisticated attacks. So all of the easy ones that can be pulled off. Now, don't underestimate all the easy ones. There's at least about between 80 and 100 different attacks that are described in the document that you can do protection for. And the protection for that is, have you installed antivirus? Have you changed the password? And so on. Okay, so we can go through all that. When you actually do this as a business and go through the business, through the assessment for your business, so you have a self-assessment that you complete. Once you've completed your self-assessment, it will then be verified by an assessor, and that assessor checks that the answers are according to the scheme. And if the answers are correct, great. Well, not correct, if they comply with the scheme, you are then issued a certificate. Right. Now, over the questionnaire, it covers mainly 5 domains about security in your business. There are quite a lot of questions in there, but overall, there are sort of 34 really important questions in terms of how your business is secured. Now, if you're quite good and filling in a form, it takes about a day to complete. And usually you would have to try and get all the answers from various different folks. For example, if you don't have an IT person and the question is about a firewall, for example, how would I change the password for a firewall? Somebody would need to tell you how to go about changing the password for the firewall, because you would have to write it down how you've done it, for example. Now, because this is an annual certification, think of it as an MOT for your business. So, and just like an MOT, as you go through the process, you check that everything is still there, you check that the lights are working, you see that the tires are still okay in your car, make sure the windscreen's not cracked, the lights are working, everything. And it kind of gives you that, I'm okay, I can do this, okay? Now, I know if you've got a bit of an older car, you're always dreading to say, ooh, my car needing to go for an MOT. I don't know what is going to be flagged up. It's okay. There's a checklist. You can go through the checklist, and you always feel a whole lot better once you've completed the assessment, like the MOT. And then at least you know, I'm okay. We're good for another year to go. So we're up to speed in this. All right. So a big part of this is about cyber hygiene. And usually when we talk about cyber hygiene, and it's about the basic steps you can take to enhance your online security. Usually that includes things about passwords. We all have been indoctrinated in terms of don't write it down, don't store it insecurely, and so on. And some sites even now are starting to say, well, your passwords must be at least 8 characters long, and so on. So it's slowly catching on, but we'll talk a little bit more about passwords later on in the session. We're going to be talking about online content, and this is mainly the browser that you are using to go online. How does your system actually check and see that the website you're going to is a safe website? Does your antivirus warn you if you're connecting to a network that has been compromised? We'll talk all about that as well. And typically, all the links and posts that we see on social media. We like to click on an article. X hasn't, or Twitter hasn't really made it easy when they started changing the way that a post appears or a link appears in a post. So only when you click on the link do you actually get to go to the website to see what the actual thing is about. Yeah, it's a kind of a step back, but and it's for these reasons that we have to have our systems all updated, have proper antivirus and stuff, installed. We'll talk about social engineering, and this is where you may get a phishing email, or you may get a click or a link to click to go to a particular website. Now, that link may be completely legitimate. It may be completely fake. We'll talk about this as well. And I'll do a quick demonstration on social engineering and just how quickly we can do things like this and what it does. We'll briefly talk about coffee shops and hotels. Now, very cliched as well, but these things happen. We still take our devices to a coffee shop to use them. We may even use our mobile phone to connect. How do we know that the network is safe that we are connecting to? So we'll talk about steps like that. In the last couple of years during the pandemic, suddenly we were all stuck at home. We all started working from home, and that presented a huge problem for organizations. So if you're an organization that still have workers working from home, because that is now a preferred method, we'll talk about how you can secure those particular users in terms of keeping them safe, keeping the organization data safe, etc. Right. Now, as I mentioned, Cyber Essentials is a UK government scheme. It's run by the National Cybersecurity Centre. They are the custodians of this process, and it comes in two kind of flavors. So the first one is the Cyber Essentials self-assessed assessment. So you fill in the questionnaire, and then somebody else gets to audit that questionnaire. The Cyber Essentials Plus is a verified assessment. So somebody will actually connect to your organization. An assessor will go through various checks and verify that things are in place. If you're short of a couple of controls, or if things are not working quite as good as the assessor would suggest, they would help you with some kind of remediation plan to say, hey, you need to fix this, or maybe have a look at how you can tweak this to make it a little bit more compliant and much more safer for your organization. And some of it is that you don't actually need to go and buy new software or anything else, unless, of course, your systems are really, really, really out of date. But the vast majority of fixes is stuff that you can implement relatively quickly without splashing out any extra cash. Okay. The process that governs all of this, and there is a document online from the National Cybersecurity Center. This document is also available on our website called cyberessentials.online under the downloads section. And you can download the document that is the requirements for IT infrastructure. And we're currently at version 3.1. Now, this document describes exactly what it is that each question expects from you, the person completing the questionnaire. It describes what is in scope, what is out of scope. Do I need to include my Wi-Fi? Do I need to include USB sticks? It'll clarify all of those questions in there. Now, in that document, like I said, it'll define the scope. it will basically describe everything that needs to be considered when you're completing the questionnaire. So, for example, everything in the green box, all of those things are included. And you'll notice that there's a big thing here called cloud services. So that includes infrastructure as a service, a platform as a service, and software as a service. So any software that you have that is a cloud service, for example, Office 365, Dropbox, or Sage, that is online, any area that you store business documents, those are in scope as well. Any physical service that you have, any local firewalls, any desktop clients, and that includes mobile devices that you use for your organization. Now, it may seem that it's like, oh, MG, this is a lot of stuff in there. But if you are going to look at the security of your organization, you need to consider the whole organization. You want to be able to cover any sort of gaps within that environment, so that you're aware of it. You know exactly which bits I need to secure, which bits needs more securing because they may be a little bit more vulnerable. For example, if I have a very old mobile phone, I need to maybe upgrade to a much newer model to have a supported operating system in it. Okay. Now, when you start with your questionnaire and your self-assessment, so the new one is called Montpellier. So they are named after water fountains in Worcestershire. Yeah, okay, it makes all the fun. And they are, there's quite a few of them available, but the current one is Montpellier. Now, every year with a new questionnaire, there's some extra questions that come along with each questionnaire. And 2023 saw the introduction of cloud services. Which means that things that are included, things like Office 365, Azure, any remote connections, and multi-factor authentication became mandatory in 2023. Now, don't worry about new things coming in, for example, next year, and you think, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. Usually when a new feature gets introduced or a new question set gets introduced with new questions, those questions will come for a period with information only. So you just need to be aware of that these things are going to become mandatory for the next year coming on. So it really helps to get a heads up on future stuff I would need to secure. Okay. Now, so some of those future stuff that we need to procure or secure is the following coming to Cyber Essentials. There is a questions or several questions about your backup strategy. So it'll be about, do you have working backups? Have you tested them? Now, these are not mandatory questions yet, but these are questions that will probably become mandatory in 2025 when the new version gets released. Now, many organizations have moved from their BYOD devices or bring your own devices working from home. They've switched over to things like thin clients. So basically, it is a remote desktop that you connect to your company's infrastructure and use the system like that. This is now becoming in scope for assessments because it's not a device at the at the remote site per se. It isn't like a desktop, but it is a virtual device that you connect to, and we would need to make sure that that particular device is still protecting as if it was a real workstation. New device unlocking requirements are coming in as well. So it's currently is, do you have a password or a PIN to to unlock it? So it can now starting to include things like biometric unlocking, so Face ID, for example, or or fingerprint, or on some services they are moving towards passwordless logins. So you will have a hardware key as a pass key, for example, that you can use via NFC on your mobile device to log into services as well. So there's no password to intercept, so to speak. Okay, so passwords, good thing, they're on their way out, but they're not gone. We are still required for many services to use a username and password. Previously, when you had systems in your organizations, you were able to say, for example, well, these are the majority of our devices. We've got some outlier devices, but they say, for example, we've got 100 Windows 11 devices, and we've got maybe 3 Windows 7 devices. So previously, you could say, well, those other devices, it doesn't matter because they are such a small percentage of the overall picture. Now that's changed. So everything is now in scope. So your 100 devices and those 3 outlier devices that you thought nobody's ever going to ask about. So those devices are now in scope as well. You can't exclude everything. Okay. So what are the kind of things that we look for? What is the questionnaire aim to address? So we are going to try and look for things like hardware and software misconfigurations. So things that you can do to make the device more secure. We are trying to look for maybe a poor design of the network. So, for example, if it doesn't have enough protection on it, like, for example, firewall, host-based firewalls, antivirus, and stuff like that. We are looking for patching in our inherent technology weaknesses. It's just a big word for like, okay, when a software update comes along, we should install the patches. And how often should we install the patches? Currently, the guidelines say 14 days. You shouldn't go more than 14 days of installing available patches for your organization or software in your organization. Now, the good thing is software companies release, like, for example, Microsoft, they release their software every 14 days. So you get the first 14 days, it occurs on a Tuesday. It's called Patch Tuesday. And then 2 weeks after that, there is another release with more patches and a cumulative update with all the patches that have been issued for that month. We always advise install the patches as they become available immediately, because that prevents you from having to be behind or too far behind, and you need to do a massive update. Right. So some of the questions address, well, we'll just call it careless approach of users. Now, it's not so much the careless part. It is about I get a link. It looks genuine. I'm going to click on it because I get emails of that particular type as part of my job. I open the email and then it's a case of, oh, something bad's happened. So we're going to try and address that. Some of the questions in the questionnaire is on intentional acts from end users. So if a user is running as as administrator in their organization, for example, they usually have access. Oh, joy, fire alarm. Hopefully it's just a test. Okay, it stopped. It's just a test. Phew. Right. So I wonder if that was an intentional act of an end user. Don't know. Okay, so the intentional acts of an end user may be that they have administrator privilege to a lot of documents, parts of the network, and they can change configurations and so on. Part of the Cyber Essentials questionnaire is help you address those particular areas, create separate accounts for administrative people, keeping track of who has administrative access and so on to your environment. So it's good questions to ask, okay? If you have a managed service provider that is looking after your own environment, download the questionnaire, go through that. Maybe use that questionnaire as a basis for negotiation for the next year's contract. Go through it. Are you doing this? Are you changing passwords for me? Are you providing antivirus? Do you, just go through those particular questions. And you can quickly then figure out, okay, am I on board with spending enough money? Am I spending too much money? Am I paying too much money out for the managed service provider? Where you can take control of all that. Okay. So the first kind of section within the questionnaire is about boundary firewalls and internet gateways. Whew, big word. But think of it as your BT router at home or BT router in the office, maybe some of you with virtual media and so on. And it's got questions about that. For example, have you changed the default password for that particular device? For example, older virtual media routers, when you look at the bottom for the Wi-Fi password, it's got the username and password for the administrative interface, and the old virtual media passwords used to say, change me. Okay, so you're meant to go in and change that. But for the vast majority of people, didn't even know what the administrative part of their modem is about. So it just goes to the question, have you remembered to change that? You don't have to change it every year, but if you change it once and make a note of what it is, great. A big thing is a lot of hardware is getting obsolete. So they may have been installed a long time ago, and they've reached end of life. We can point you to some documentation online, so you can find out whether your devices have reached end of life. If they've reached end of life, which means that the manufacturer is no longer supplying with any patches and updates for that particular device, and you may need to consider buying a new device or getting a new device from your service provider and so on. Fortunately, organizations like BT and the internet providers are usually quite proactive on this, and they will let you know that your devices are due for change, and they will swap out your old devices for new devices because it protects their own network as well. Now, the next domain is secure configuration, and this is making sure that the systems are configured in the most secure way for the needs of the organization. Have you separated the privileges out? Have you made sure that people only have access to what they need to do their particular job? Now, within this, there is cloud services as well, and the same permission separation needs to exist in the cloud. So what do people have access to within the cloud service. Okay. Usernames and passwords under access control. And the big thing that folks need to implement here is two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. I've got some slides later on, just giving some examples how we can update that. Now, from last year, it became mandatory. You needed to be able, so if the service was providing that as a feature, you had to enable it. If your service didn't provide that as a service by default, you needed to have a really strong password and set alerts when somebody logs into that account. It's just so that you have that extra step of notification to say, hey, somebody's logging into my account. Was it me? Or, hey, does somebody know my password, for example? Right. On choosing passwords, if you love changing passwords as much as I do, then I'm pretty sure you hate it as well. A big problem is password reuse of us using the same password on many different sites. To counteract that, very simple, you can use a password manager, for example, like LastPass or OnePass, or there's a couple of different schemes and processes that can help you change the password to a really good password. And you can save the password in the software vault, so that it's a unique password for every single website that you go to or service that you use. You don't need to remember what that particular password is, because you're not going to type it in manually. It also gives you the option of creating really long passwords, like 50-character passwords, that are very, very hard to guess. Okay, but the main thing is you need to save them somewhere so that they are secure. Now, you can write down passwords. Nobody says you're not allowed to write down passwords. The problem comes in, how are you storing the passwords? Are you storing the passwords in a safe place? For example, if you've written them down in a notebook, where are you keeping the notebook? Are you keeping that notebook secure, or are you just having a row of Post-its on the at the bottom of your screen with each of the passwords for the various different services? It's just to try and make secure our accounts. Okay, now this also came through during the pandemic. Okay, so some of us got really sick, some of us got hospitalized, some of us never came back. Okay, so if you are looking for features in a password manager, think about the following. Can you grant access to your password vault in case something happens to you? Okay, so and it's not just a case of I'm giving you access to all my passwords that you can use, can access anytime. You can set very specific controls on that. So, and you would have to not be in a position to decline access before the system will actually grant access to a particular set of passwords. So, for example, if you're solely responsible for paying the rent or electricity or something like that, and you do that online, if something was to happen to you, would somebody be able to take over that function so that you can actually do those particular payments? You can also, within the password manager, you can share a password or share a login with a particular individual. So when you share that, they can't see what the password is. right? But they can log into the site. And you can also say how many times can that link be used. So many cases, it's the one time only login to a particular website. Okay. Generating passwords, don't get me started on that. A lot of the services also let you know when a password is compromised. Okay, so when a particular service that you've saved the password for, if that organization comes up in a breach, you'll get a notification to say, hey, service xyz.com got breached. You have an account with that. You need to go and change your password for that. Within the Cyber Essentials questionnaire is a question, says, if a password is found to be compromised, do you change it? So it's a question of answering yes or no. Okay, so it's not like you have to come up with some weird answer. It's just a yes or no question. We briefly talked about family sharing and delegation, and similarly within a business and so on, can you share and delegate access to particular services in the event, if you are the main person responsible for all of that, is there some way you can delegate that access to somebody else? Make sure that whatever you do, that you have mobile and desktop compatibility. And usually the companion services work really well together. There's usually a browser plugin that will recognize, oh, I'm on this website. You have an account for this. If this was a fake website, the password manager will not suggest a username and password for that particular site. It will warn you if you're trying to use that, to say, hey, no, this is not the right place. Now, some of us like to keep encrypted notes or notes about various things that you maybe need to remember, maybe things that you want to just keep track of. Maybe it's like notes from your doctor, whatever. It doesn't really matter what those notes are. A lot of the password managers allow you to keep encrypted notes within the vault. So you can then even password protect those notes so that even if somebody was to get hold of your device and maybe guess your password, there is yet another layer of protection about data. Okay. Like I said, there's a couple of options there, 1Password, LastPass, Dashlane. Yeah. My advice, if you can, choose a premium option, choose a paid for version, because they come up with a whole lot of extra features. And those extra features are usually worth the extra monies that you have. Now, I'm digressing a little bit from Cyber Essentials, but all of this is about keeping data safe. All of this is about being able to know when a username or password is being compromised. All of this is about making sure that if something was to happen to me, at least there is a backup way we can work in terms of business continuity, families, and so on. Now, earlier on, I mentioned about multi-factor authentication. So these things can come in various different forms. So they can come in a text message or SMS. Some may come in the form of an email, and some will be an app that you would need to type in the 6 numbers or something like that. Whichever way you prefer, it allows you to protect your account. Because to access your account, you need at least 2 secrets to access your account. So the first secret that you need to have is your username. And usually, if you have a username that is normally your email address, it can be guessed what that particular secret is. Okay. The second secret is obviously your password. Okay, to access the particular account. If you add in a third option, for example, multi-factor authentication, it is a secret that constantly changes, right? So even if they get the first two secrets, the third secret changes constantly, and you can look it up and authorize it with your mobile device or another device and so on. Okay, all this to keep you safe from attacks from and so on. So most systems have multi-factor authentication. You can check in your profile settings whether you can enable that. You can then choose how you want that to actually work. You can enable it everywhere you can. It is advised that you at least enable that everywhere else, because the application will prompt you to type in the number that to be able to complete a login. If you're starting to get notifications to say, "Hey, is this you? Hey, is this you?" or use this number for the authentication, and if it wasn't you, then you need to realize that your account has been compromised, both your username and password, the first two secrets within your for your account, and you would then need to log in and change your password for that particular site. So if you believe it's compromised, reset your password, change it to something better. Okay. So there's lots of authentication apps. These can synchronize across devices. So if you get a new mobile phone, it's very easy to migrate them over to a new device. And also from the application, if something happened and you notice there are two devices registered on your profile, you can remove the other device from your profile to say, hey, we're not, there's only one device that can do two-factor authentication. Okay. So there's options for Google Authenticator, LastPass. It's easy to enroll and make sure you get the notifications of login attempts. Okay. Now, one of the good sites out there is a site called Have I Been Pwned? Now, some of you may be familiar with Have I Been Pwned, but usually this website gets advance notice of any breaches that have occurred, and whether your username, is part of that. So if we are going to look at this quickly, where's my browser? Oh no. Okay, I will do a demonstration shortly. But you can get a notification from this website by email to saying, hey, something's happened to your account. You need to change the password, and it'll tell you which service and so on. And it's really good to know if something like that's happened, so you can take advantage of us. Now, if you're a business, you can add in business emails, but you can also sign up if you have managing your own domain name for your business. You can sign up your entire domain name, so anybody that has a email in your domain a notification will be generated once that domain name is detected in a particular breach. Super, super, super useful. Okay. lots of different types of breaches and sites available. So I've been involved in a few of these where my account details got breached. So, for example, my Facebook account got breached before. So I know an old password of mine is floating around in a in a Facebook hack. Um, my car, the account that I've signed up for my car, that has been hacked. But if you are in the UK, for example, and you have a account with your local council, or you have um, a way that your well, let me rephrase. Lots of organizations use a service to verify your identity. Okay, so and they use a particular service, and this particular service was called a verifications.io. Now, in verifications.io, lots of councils use them, lots of schools use them, lots of public bodies use them to verify your identity. Well, they got hacked, and I didn't get a notification from our council to say, "Hey, by the way, the service we've been using to verify your identity, we got hacked, and you didn't, and yeah, we didn't tell you." So it's really good to sign up for a service to get notified of things like this. Okay. Right. So your phone, mobile phone, right? So if you were to want to check um your voicemail messages, and do you know what your PIN number is if you wanted to check your voicemail messages from externally? Did you even know that you could do that? Did you know that I would need to have a PIN number for that? Okay. So fortunately for everybody in the UK, I've saved their PINs for them. Okay, so if you want to know what your PIN number is, great. Here we go. If you're a Vodafone, if your number is prompted to say, "Hey, put in your PIN number," your default PIN number is 0000. Great. But you can also see on 3, it's also 0000, and the same with Talk Mobile 0000. So already 3 services, bam, bam, bam. I know what the default PIN number for voicemail is. Great. If if we're with O2, it's 5555. If we're with Orange, it's 1111. And of course, if we're with T-Mobile, Virgin Mobile, or Mobile World, it's 1210. There you go. Virtually everybody in the UK their pins for their voicemail. So what can you do about it? Phone up your service, phone your voicemail and set a new password. That way, if I was to be able to want to check your voicemail remotely, I wouldn't be able to, to do that, especially if you're working in business and so on. It's vitally important that you keep your voicemails safe from unwanted access. Okay. One of the sections in there is malware protection. You need to have malware protection installed on your local devices. For example, either Defender or ESET or any of these other services. Please, 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 the thing that is not acceptable for Cyber Essentials is no free, well, not so much free, no trial versions of software. Okay, so if you have a trial version of software, that will attract an instant fail on the whole assessment. So just get a proper antivirus if you're needing to one. If you're stuck and if you're on Windows, stick with a Windows Defender. It comes with Windows, it's pretty good. And it kind of removes the need to install something extra on your device and pay for something during, for the year. Now, it is a really good idea to consider malware software or anti-malware software for mobile devices, because these devices are with us all the time. We use them to connect to other networks. We use them to download email. We use them to connect to the internet and download stuff, click on links, go on social media, the whole lot. We get text messages, everything on it. So it's a really good plan to have anti-malware software on your mobile device as well. So which ones shall we get? So if you buy some of the premium services like ESET or any of those, they come with a mobile version of the anti-malware for your mobile device as well. Plus, you can install it on a couple of other devices as well. Make sure that you install it on, if you have an iPad or a tablet, make sure it's all there. I mentioned already, avoid any free or trial versions because it's just not good at all. Okay. So if you are going to look for mobile device anti-malware, I can wholeheartedly recommend Sophos's Intercept X for mobile, because it has a function in there. So when you connect to another Wi-Fi network for the coffee shop, restaurant, shops, whatever, it will do checks on the network to see whether the network is safe. If the network is found not to be safe, it will give you a warning to say, hey, this network is potentially very unsecure or very unsafe to connect to. So you can choose, okay, I'm not going to connect to the Wi-Fi. I'm going to just use mobile data. Now, for each of all of these devices that we have to consider on the last domain is our patch management. And our patch management is just installing the updates as they come along. Now, later this week, maybe even early next week, the new iOS updates are coming out, 17.4. So it's useful to know to say, hey, okay, next week there's going to be some new updates from Apple for my mobile device, for my Mac, for my iPad, and so on, and tvOS, right? But the thing that we're trying to get to here is knowing what is the current version that is supported by your vendor, I suppose. So currently the versions that are supported is Windows 10, 22, H2 and onwards. Windows 11, 22 H2 and 23 H2. Those are supported. And then for Mac OS, usually the last three versions of Mac OS is supported. So for example, Sonoma, Ventura, and Monterey. Okay. On mobile devices, iOS 17. Okay. Don't try and says, well, 16 may get still some updates and so on. Yeah, no, just go for the currently supported version of our data. Mobile and tablets, if you're going to be connecting to a remote network and so on, make sure that you have some adequate protection in place. For example, things, again, man-in-the-middle attacks, so whereby you connect to a fake Wi-Fi and somebody's on the fake Wi-Fi or on the Wi-Fi pretending to be fake services and so on. So you can do that. Now, many some of the ISPs have options available. So if you're a Virgin Media subscriber or BT subscriber and so on, you'll get access to their hotspots. So you don't have to rely on a particular organization's own maybe fake network. There are some other hotspots that you're allowed to connect to and so on. If you want to use a VPN and if you're on an unsecured network, you can use a VPN. I recommend you maybe look at the servers at 1.1.1. And what it will try and do is create a secure connection from your device to somewhere on the internet. Now, somewhere on the internet, in this case, it is Cloudflare. Now, Cloudflare manages about 60% of the internet's traffic. So it will create a safe connection from your device all the way over to the to their servers to allow you to connect to the rest of the internet without somebody listening on the local network. Okay. It makes it safe with local Wi-Fi and so on. If you're having a laptop, for example, and if it's a Windows, you connect to a new network, and it comes up. It says, "Hey, is this a public network or is this a private network?" Always choose public network because that puts your local firewall into a very safe state so that it blocks all traffic coming to your devices. Things like Facebook and stuff will still work because you are initiating the connection. Any connections being initiated to you will get blocked. So it makes it like super, a whole lot safer. If you have a Mac, make sure that on the Mac that your firewall is actually turned on because for some wisdom, it came with a default off. So make sure you check and say, I want to turn the firewall on. So there's a couple of options that you can try. But usually, if you turn the firewall on, everything will still work. That's fine. If you are going to use the firewall, for example, on a device, there is usually a tick box that says enable stealth mode, which will block discovery probes on the network to find your device. Okay, so you can be reasonably anonymous on a particular network. Right, so we've covered all of the 5 domains within Cyber Essentials, secure configurations, patch management, and so on. And the main message that I'm trying to get across this afternoon is how can we adequately protect the business with Cyber Essentials? Sometimes we would need to undergo some training to be able to check and figure this out. We need to be aware of some of the security concepts like antivirus and firewalls and so on, and of the types of threats where we may encounter those particular attacks. In some cases, especially when you have a business, be in a process that you can actually assist law enforcement in terms of collecting evidence. Now, I am mentioning this because Police Scotland are extremely helpful in terms of helping you recover from a particular attack. Now, they're not going to get your data back per se, but they will be able to be in a position to say, hey, you are the 35th person we've seen with this particular attack today or this week. all in the same sector. And here is what other folks have done to recover their data. So it really helps them. If something really nefarious has happened and money got stolen and so on, they will be in a position to signpost ways on how you can recover some of that information. If you don't engage with Police Scotland, for example, it's a valuable bit of help that you are missing out. And we're trying to just get everybody involved in the organization, keeping machines updated, software secure, and so on, because it is everybody that needs to participate in security. Now, the kind of things that we've seen as assessors when we're doing the assessments is organizations are at various different levels of compliance. So some may have antivirus, some may be patching some things and they haven't patched other things. Sometimes we've detected that the network is infected with something because there's some applications installed and it's like, okay, what is this used for? And they go, well, I don't know, because that is a bit of spyware, for example. Overall, security was moderate within the organization, as in it was okay, but it can be improved a whole lot more if you go through the Cyber Essentials questionnaire. You can certainly bolster your security that way. Some we've found that they've maybe been victims of ransomware. They maybe not been ransomed yet, but they've already been attacked and everything is ready to go to get ransomed. So it's a good heads up to actually go through the process to see, hey, am I infected with something? Or if you're having somebody looking after your network or devices, something, well, we thought it was done, or our guy said it was fine, and usually it's not fine. Be sure, use the questionnaire and go check for yourself. Okay, so we're coming to the end of it, and then I'm going to do my quick demonstrations just to give you a heads up on some of the issues that is concerning. So, in terms of Cyber Essentials, leave it. Work on it for a period of time to implement all of the recommendations for Cyber Essentials. Don't leave it to the last minute, because it becomes a rush and you're unlikely to pass the assessment based if you're going to rush it. Especially if you're needing it for any contract requirements. So if you're needing to complete a tender, one of the first questions is insert your Cyber Essentials certification number here. All of those can be verified online. So you can't cheat, you can't, just, if you have it, you can put it in there. Making sure all the basics is in place, making sure that it covers the entire organization. You will find that some things were overlooked by your managed service provider or your support people and so on. It's a worthwhile review, and it's not expensive at all. For the price of the Cyber Essentials process to get certified, it's way, way, way less than trying to phone somebody up and get pay them by the hour or per day to actually have a look at your network to see what needs to be fixed and so on. It's things you can do. Lots of unsupported systems out there, easily fixed. Update them. In some cases, old hardware can be replaced. It doesn't mean you need to replace everything, but you can work systematically to update and upgrade everything as we go on. Okay, so essentially, this is the end of the boring bit. Okay, so if there's any questions, ask them in the chat. I've got Alice and Megan available to answer any questions for you. But the next, so the next bit that I wanted to just talk about. So we talked about passwords earlier on, and we say, well, passwords needs to be as a certain length. They need to have special characters and stuff in. So what we've done, at our live exercise a couple of days ago, we collected. We had a couple of volunteers in, and we collected some. We asked them to provide us with a username and a password. No, not a password that they are currently using, but a password that they would choose. Okay, so and what we did was we ran them through the same process as how the passwords would be stored in Windows, on your Windows device, and then we're going to look and see how quickly we can crack them. So what we'll do is we'll get our thing here. So of course it changed the directory. All right. So what we have here, so we have a couple of options here. So on the side of, on the left-hand side here, we have the usernames of people that have volunteered passwords. And then there is the encrypted versions of the passwords being stored within Windows. Okay, so that's what, I don't know what those passwords are, but let's have a quick go. So all I need to go through and is run through my password cracking process and just click crack. And we can see already at the bottom, even within, what is it now, almost 10 seconds, some of them were already cracked within 10 seconds. So coming up for 18 seconds, nearly 20, 24. Oh, no. Okay, now it's going, quite quickly in terms of cracking these passwords. So as you can see, some of the passwords have uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers. Some of them are not real words, so they're not in a dictionary word. Some of them are just random things. Now, I am terrified of scrolling past some of these things because, yeah, somebody may have put in a naughty word in, as their password. But the thing just goes that we're only in 1 minute and 10 seconds, and we've already cracked 71 out of 131. So half of them already was cracked in under 2 minutes. Even just not even 1.5 minutes, we've cracked more than half of these passwords. So you may ask, so what chance do I have? A longer password, a more secure password. Use the password manager. Usually you will be able to make it very, very difficult for somebody to crack your password, online, or if a system gets compromised. Okay. The next thing I want to just have a quick shout about. Click this. Okay, great. Okay. We talked about if well, let's see. Let me just do this. Okay. I just want to get my browser up. and we get full screen here. Great. Okay. So, oh no, I can't see the thing. All right, let's do this. Okay. So one of the search engines out there is a search engine called Shodan. Now, on Shodan, they scan the internet several times a day to find devices that are online and so on. Now, what we could do is we can log in. I'm logged in already, and it gives us lots of different types of things we can search for here at the top. So we can search for images, monitors, and so on. Okay. Now, so one of the things that we can search for, we can click on, on images. Come on, you can do this. Great. Okay, so it will now show us all the devices that have been found online that showed an image. Okay, and you can see from some of these. This is a login screen, login screen, login screen. So you may have seen some of these devices before, as in your own device, come up with the same login screen. Okay, so the worrying part here is, for example, this one is administrator, this one is administrator, 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 and let's see, administrator, administrator, admin. Oh man, almost all of these are administrators. So it means that these devices are exposed to the internet. I can connect to them. I can interact with these. Okay. I can also see that some of them are not desktop screens, but they are from other devices, things like webcams. Okay, so let us do just a quick search and say, hey, why not just filter them out of almost the million devices that I have? Let me get some webcam feeds. So I can see some of the webcams have already been hacked. We can see that there's webcams exposed. And by the way, we didn't need to have a username and password to log into this. This is just what the system found. There are some very disturbing things like here, where there is a camera in a bedroom. Imagine what kind of invasion of privacy is that? Okay. There's obviously some monitoring of gardens, offices, and so on, specific meters. But there's also, let us just find, let's see if we can find something. And I always dread when I click next. It's like just like a roulette. What image am I going to see? Oh, there's chickens. Okay, great. Okay, so there's lots of things. It's fab. But for example, imagine if this was in a person's garage, right? And I knew where that webcam was. And if there were like bikes and tools, and I can see this particular person is busy renovating their pride and joy. So this may be one of the, if I was a criminal, I may be able to want to look in that. What if these things, oh, hello, how are you? So what if these images showed, like, for example, your business, and things were exposed to the internet? Chances are that there is a microphone or an audio feed from this as well. So we could potentially listen to what's happening inside that particular building. It is really scary, but it's relatively easy to make sure that if you go through the Cyber Essentials questionnaire, that you reset the default password for this, set up a good password, and maybe disable the interface from the internet. So that may be a very useful thing. Okay. So the next part, and this is the last part, and by all means, I do not want to make everybody scared. I don't want to put fear. This is an education part. Okay, so you may want to know, so what happens if I click on a fake link or something like that? So let us use some of the tools an attacker may use in terms of an attack. So let's see what that is. So there is a tool called the Social Engineering Toolkit. So I'm going to try and trick you by clicking on something. Okay, so let's see. What are the things? Okay, cool. So usually it's dead easy with options that I can click through. So I can click on one. I want to do a social engineering attack. I want two. I want to do a website attack. And three, I want to harvest credentials. I want to get somebody's username and password. Great. Let us choose option number 3. Okay, so what site do I want to get them from? Okay, so am I going to clone another site and put it up here and send them a link to my fake site, and then I can see that? But yes, we can do that. But let us just, for the intents of this afternoon, is we'll just choose something simple. So what we'll just choose, we'll choose one of the built-in templates. Blah, blah, blah. Yes. Okay, great. Right. So I need to remember that that IP address. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, so the option that I have here, I can either have a Twitter one, a Google one, a Java one, a Facebook one, or so on. So I'm just going to go, I want to choose a Google one. And you'll see why I want to have that particular site. Okay, so my attack is now ready. Okay, so I can just go to my website here, and I can now go to my my particular fake website. Okay, so now my fake website is the Google fake pages that I've tried. So I can now type in my my details. Right. So, and then I'm going to choose now don't look at my password when I'm typing in, because, I want to try and keep this secure. All right. Okay. So I'm going to type in my super secret password. Right. Okay. My super secret password is now typed in, and I can click sign in. Yay, everything works. And it says, hey, cool, do you want to add stuff? And I say, yeah, not now. Okay, cool. So for all intents and purposes, the system thinks, well, I think I've managed to log into the system. However, if I go look back at the attacker screen, you will see here that it's already highlighted here that, oh, crikey, there's my password. Okay, I need to choose a new super secret password. I'm already at 99, so I suppose my next one will be 100. No, you get the idea, right? So, but it's these kind of scenarios. We did this within 30 seconds, even with me explaining all of the bits. this is how quickly a particular hack can occur on a particular site. Now, if I was to just go back, so I would have seen straight away that this isn't the address for Google, right? So there may have been a a different address there, even, and it will probably not even be Google either. There's other options to say, yeah, hey, the site is not secure. Okay, but those are just small giveaways that the site may be unsafe to go to. Now, you would have seen my password manager says, hey, do you want to save the password for the site? And it's like, no, I've already saved it for the site. So why is it asking me again? That's because, well, it's not the real site. Okay. If I had to now realize my password's being compromised, I need to go to the real site and change my password to something else. Okay, I've already said to you my next one may be 100, so I may need to choose a different number at the end. No, choose something completely different. Okay. Anyways, if there's any questions, any things like that, feel free to ask. Feel free to contact us on on Twitter. Feel free to contact us by email. Feel free to give us a phone. We're only happy to help. And yeah, it's really easy. And don't forget our link for the Cyber Essentials website is cyberessentials.online. Well, thank you very much for everybody that's attended. I really appreciate the participation within Cyber Scotland Week. And yeah, if there's more requests like this, we're more than happy to participate in more webinars, even if it's for your own organization or a group of charities or something like that. We're very approachable, very helpful that way. Okay. Right. So, there is a question. Okay. Thank you very much, Jason. And well, I hope it was interesting for everybody. I know it's a bit long, but it just tries to show that all of the basic things that we can do to get through and get our security just shored up quite a bit. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody coming today. And like I said, if anybody wants to to be in contact, let us know, and we can help you out as far as we can. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers.